Hi guys. Hi Chris. How's it going?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing very well. So we're gonna, just talk for a couple minutes while people keep coming in. So Chris was telling me he is down in Colombia. What's like the coolest thing down there? You've been down there a while, so it's like just everyday stuff for you now, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I think, I actually get reverse culture shock now when I go back to the States. So I think, yeah, that means that I've been down here enough.
So all right. I'd love to hear the reverse culture shock then. What's the thing that you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that's a thing when you come back to the States?
Speaking English. So going back to the States and then hearing everybody speak English is actually like wild to me. It feels like when I got here and everybody was speaking Spanish. So that was interesting, but it's a lot of things. It's a little bit different pace of life, right? So it's the notable tension in the air that exists in every city in America. It's kind of like not really a thing here, right? Everybody's kind of just pretty chill. So
Yeah. Well, that's really awesome, man. I am not a world traveler. It's always been one of those things where I'm like, that would be neat, but I guess it's never really been all that high up on my list. I don't know. I keep buying drums and guitars instead. I think I'm doing it wrong. Um, well, hey guys, welcome. Today we are going to talk about today's is going to be pretty technical, I believe. So if you're like one of the finance people at your company, I won't be offended if you drop off. Um, but for those of you who do decide to stick around, we are going to talk about HaloPSA. Chris is he's the VP of engineering for TechPulse. And his company has done like hundreds of implementations of HaloPSA. And he's going to share some of the things that he's learned. So, yes, David, this will be available as a recording. I'm going to send this to everybody tomorrow in an email. So you'll all get the recording. I just couldn't figure out how to get my Fathom recorder in here so I could get it to our team faster because Fathom is able to I don't know, like process the video way faster than Zoom does. Zoom takes like 3 or 4 hours. So that's why there's going to be a delay, but yeah, you guys will definitely get that. So what we're going to do first is I think a lot of you know me, but just in case you don't, I'm Steve Taylor. I run webinars here at Alternative Payments. And before this, I ran Rocket MSP, and I was all about educating MSPs with webinars. So that's what I continue to do now through Alternative Payments. Uh, Full disclosure, we are going to have like a little, I'm going to call it commercial break. It'll be like 5 minutes or less. It'll be somewhere in the middle. Everything else, my goal is for this to be highly educational. So the rest of this is just us showing you cool stuff. Okay. Um, I'm gonna have Chris tell you a little bit about himself and like his credibility and why you guys should listen to him, and why you should care about what he has to say. And while he does that, I'm gonna launch a poll. I'd love if we could get to know you guys a little bit better. Chris, why don't you let us know how long have you been doing Halo implementations? How many have you done? What's the worst you've broken somebody's Halo? What do you got for us, man?
okay, so first let me start with don't listen to me. I don't know why you tell people to listen to me. But I've been in the Halo sphere now for six years or so. Been doing Halo implementations for 3.5 years. So actually almost 4 years. And in that time, we've done over 450 engagements. So one of the original three Halo partners for onboarding. We came in right at the end of COVID to kind of help them get people on the platform. But yeah, it's been a wild ride. I also write the MSP Automator blog. That's kind of goes hand in hand with what I was doing with the Halo stuff forever. I'm a contributor on the Halo API PowerShell module. And, I guess that's my street cred in the community.
Very cool. Street cred. I love that. All right. Well, it looks like some of you guys are still filling out that poll, but it's interesting. We have quite a few owners here. Just about everyone is an MSP or some type of IT service provider. Somewhat comfortable. We have modified or used scripts others have created is the most common answer to how comfortable are you working with scripting or APIs today. A very distant third is very comfortable. We build automations regularly. So with that said, you are not talking to automation wizards, Chris. You are talking to I don't know, regular everyday MSPs, not the crazy wizard ones. But I think you all can be wizards. I believe in you. So, Chris, where do you want to start first, man? Like, I knew you did something cool with our API, and selfishly, like, I really want you to show that off. But realistically, I think we should probably start somewhere else first.
Yeah, I think probably important to talk about, you open with the poll there where you're kind of describing where people are at in their automation journey, right? Actually, one of the guys at Everhold who makes Trigger and that other product that they make is put out a post like a day or two ago about the 4 stages of automation maturity at an MSP. And it was really, really good. And he kind of delineated those into like 4 broad stages of where you're at in your MSP journey and how you can, identify the low-hanging fruit for automation and, what things you can tackle at what stage of that maturity. And it was really great. I think, stage 1 is where probably like 80% of MSPs end up landing, which is like the manual stage where everything is high reliance on checklists, people going through and following documentation to do every kind of procedure, inconsistencies in service delivery, like repetitive low value tickets that could, potentially be automated out of the system. So stage 1, I think, is where we see a lot of people. And then, today in the webinar, we've got a lot of people that are running scripts that other people are doing. That's stage 2, the scripted stage, right? So these are people that are learning what they can get value-wise out of automation, and they're starting to have little pockets of automation in their MSP. So this is I may not be able to write an automation from scratch myself. I may not understand how all the moving pieces work together, but I can ChatGPT my way to success, or I can have a broad understanding enough to be able to use somebody else's script. At the tail end of that stage, you start to hit what's like script sprawl, right? Where you just have everything's decentralized. Everybody's making scripts for everything. There's no organization. There's no unity. There's no plan to move forward. Tasks may be faster, but processes are still bad. And that's where you delineate like a stage 2 MSP from stage 3 MSP is we don't know what we don't know operationally to be able to gain from automation, right? So then you get into like your maybe top 10% of MSPs that are doing event-driven automation, right? And these are the guys that are saying, okay, we've got an automation expert in-house. This guy's going to connect this thing to this thing. These things are going to talk. They're going to synthesize data together. They're going to do important value add things for us. We recognize that the operational piece of this is also a contributing factor. And we're not going to try to use automation to, fix our operational problems. We're going to fix the operational problems in conjunction with building automation to make sure that everything works together great. That's like the sweet spot to be, right? Then you get into like stage 4, where you're so far past the technical competency of the industry that you're probably a specialist in something else too. So these are people that are in like the autonomous stage of automation, right? So they're doing predictive analysis. They have self-healing infrastructure. They're maybe doing infrastructure as code. They're making data-driven decisions. They're doing business level process automation.
That's
maybe
where,
a little bit too far.
that's where I always wanted my MSP to be. So for those of you that don't know, I used to run an MSP. I sold it and went over to the dark side, and now I work for a vendor. So that's me. But yeah, I always like, I don't know. I always thought, oh yeah, my MSP, we're super proactive. We've got lab tech and it does things.
Lab tech. Nice.
You put, but like you have to configure stuff, out of the box. So the configuring stuff is, I think, the hardest part because anyone can sign up for a piece of software, whether it's Halo or LabTech or Ninja, or I guess it's not LabTech anymore. It's Forever LabTech. Or even Roost. There's all this cool RPA, robotic process automation stuff out there. What are your thoughts on RPA platforms, Chris? Is that helpful, or do you guys find it's easier and or better to just like write your own stuff?
You sure you want that answer?
That's a loaded question.
It's not even a loaded question. So my answer is I'm not a big fan of RPA tools.
Okay.
Yeah, bang for your buck is really hard to get. Now there's some like value to be had in things like N8N. I'm not going to say the R word, but the make.coms, those kind of things. Those are great because they lower the barrier to entry in a lot of cases, right? And if you're a smaller organization that may not have the technical in-house ability to like build and manage automations, that may be an okay option. The problem is that the systems that those things connect to are constantly evolving, right? So if you have an N8N connector that does this specific thing in this specific API, and then that API spec changes, you're at the mercy of whoever made that connector or, yourself figuring it out. At that point, you might as well just script it because you're just working with the API at that point. So we've also seen like in those codeless platforms or those low code platforms, the modules that they integrate are just, they sprawl so hard that they never loop back to do another revision, right? So you end up with just like a lot of broken stuff. You may have to do things that are kind of wacky just because of the constraints of the system that you're working in. But if you have simple needs, that may be great. Maybe a very low barrier to entry solution. I have seen another platform out there called Trigger that is still, I think there's still beta cohorts, but super promising. I think that guy's got the right idea, but we'll see.
I'll have to look into that one. I know, Zapier is still, pretty big, pretty popular. There's a new one that's becoming popular, N8N. And I always wonder, these low code, no code type of tools, they really do make it easy, for anybody in finance and marketing to figure out how to integrate tools that were never meant to integrate to begin with. But I always wonder if they're like limiting to the MSPs or engineers or technical people in any fashion, right? And I think you kind of answered the question. Now, look, that's not to say nobody should use Roost or any of these other RPA platforms. That's simply to say Chris doesn't think it's good for him or his company. If you guys aren't as strong in scripting and using APIs, by all means, use these platforms. But I would also maybe say that this is a good opportunity for you to either hire somebody that is very proficient in that stuff or learn something new yourself, because some of these platforms, they get really expensive, especially as you start having them do more and more tasks. I think on Zapier, at one point, I was spending like $600 a month, which is nothing compared to what some people spend on Zapier. So don't, I understand like that was chump change compared to some real Zapier bills. But at the same time, it was all stuff that had I just like sat down and really, I don't know, tried for a while, I probably could have gotten some stuff working. And then I'm the kind of person where, oh, cool, I got this working. How do I make it better? Like I'm always like, oh man, I can make it just a little bit better. So I think once you start to have some wins, you'll start to realize, oh, this isn't so bad after all. Chris and I have many late night chats. Nathan seems to be a very big fan, Chris.
Nice.
Nathan,
I like that.
And I just want to share, just in case it was missed, Ty, you have made quite possibly the most unhinged response to, is there anything else you'd like us to know about your business or your goals for automation? And I love it. His response, Chris, are you ready for this? Our mascot is a donkey with wings.
Okay.
That's what he wanted us to know.
Yeah. Excellent.
I love it. All right. So we've kind of talked a little bit about scripting and like where you might be in this journey of scripting, automation, APIs. If you had to say, like, there's one resource that you think stands above all others when it comes to learning and getting better at scripting, where would you say people should go?
John Saville's PowerShell Masterclass on YouTube. So John Saville probably is a name a lot of people recognize. He's like the Azure guy from Microsoft. He's one of the godfathers of Azure. And he does training videos for Microsoft on YouTube. He draws everything out. He explains the concepts in depth. He's got like a 13-hour PowerShell Masterclass on YouTube. It's excellent. Start to finish.
Is it all free too? Because it's on YouTube?
100% free.
That's amazing.
Everything he does is free because Microsoft sponsors him. So he's a
amazing.
Microsoft employee. So yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes a lot more sense now. Full disclosure, my doorbell might ring in like 30 to 60 seconds, and then my dog might go nuts. So I might just mute because groceries are being dropped off because I'm lazy. Moving on. So now we know where to go learn. So let's talk about what are some of the possibilities once you start getting into writing your own automations. And let's just forget everything we know about some of these cool automation platforms and RPA and all that stuff. Let's just talk about the raw power of writing your own stuff.
So writing your own stuff is great, right? It's the end goal, I think, that a lot of us want to get to. But what's better than something that does exactly what you need it to do, right? Well, I guess something off the shelf doing exactly what you need it to do, but that's not really a luxury we have in this industry, right? Yeah. So, especially when we're talking about HaloPSA, right? Because so many features in Halo are conditions of purchase, and they're put into the platform for somebody's very specific niche use case, and they may not work for anybody else, right? So, and I think that's actually the angst that got me to be what I am now in automation, was because, here I am 5-6 years ago, HaloPSA was a relatively new front end for NetHelp Desk. And man, there was just so many things I needed it to do that I couldn't get it to do out of the box. So what did I do? It had a great API. It was designed to be extensible. So I just built my own automations for everything. Still use a lot of those to this day. A lot of those have evolved so far from what they were 5 or 6 years ago that they may be Skynet at some point. But you really can't beat the...
Sorry, did you say Skynet?
Yeah, I did say Skynet. Absolutely.
Oh boy.
Which is funny because the app service that runs a lot of my function apps, we call Skynet. So it's named in Azure.
Oh boy. This is concerning. This is very concerning. That's the name of my CNC firewall management box.
Nice.
Okay. So yeah, I think we can all agree that the Terminator has really impacted all of us. And What are your thoughts? Let's just go off topic for a second. What are your thoughts on AI? Is it going to become Skynet? Is it going to be the end of us all?
Not in its current incarnation, I don't think. I I think no matter how much compute and money they throw at LLMs, they're just going to give the like impression of AGI. They're never going to actually qualify as AGI. I think that LLMs are going to be a component of AGI in the maybe not so distant future, but I don't think that they're going to be AGI themselves. So I think that maybe we are in kind of an AI bubble, especially with the way that costs and compute scale, right? So I think we will see a little bit of a pullback in AI, but I think at the same time, people are discovering so many good uses for large language models that maybe not, right? Maybe they're going to have their place forever, and they're going to end up being a component of AGI in the future. So it's very exciting stuff. Obviously, we're building an AI platform. It's going to be launching in a month, and the sky is the limit. There's a lot of stuff we can do with it, but is it like AGI as we think it is? Probably not.
Okay. So, you built an API demo that I think now is a good time for us to show off. Now, earlier I said he built it using alternative payments. Yes, I'm excited to show you that we have an API, yada, yada, yada. But this is to actually show you the power of what you can do when you start scripting and automating using APIs. Okay. So, yes, it uses our API, but it also uses WooCommerce. And what else does it use?
WordPress
Yeah. Oh, and Halo, obviously.
and Halo, obviously, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna put your screen up. Now everyone can see it. So why don't you walk us through what we've got going on here, Chris?
Sure. So in preparation for this webinar, promised I would build something for their API, and I was having a hard time figuring out how I was going to like make a wow demo kind of thing, right? And at the same time, I'm also kind of pissed off that I have to pay Stripe fees on like my pro services checkout on our website. So my idea was I'm going to build an alternative payments integration for WooCommerce, right? Which is what we use to take those checkouts on our website for pro services and for Halo implementations. Now we use like a different processor for our SaaS stuff on the cloud concept side. But it wasn't going to work in this case. So the idea was, okay, let's tie it all together with alternative payments. So that's what we did. And it was also an excuse to do a WordPress plugin. Never done one before. It was absurdly easy and kind of fun. I'm ashamed to admit. But what it becomes is a custom plugin, payment plugin for WooCommerce. So just PHP file. And it adds alternative-payments.io as a checkout option, right, for WooCommerce. So we also have a little...
And you could have given that any other name you wanted. It was just, that's what you programmed it to be called when you built the WordPress plugin, correct?
Yeah, right. And actually, I designed it in a way that it can be renamed to anything. So yeah, we just enable the external payment gateway. We also have like an external payment API that it creates. And this external API lets us send data back and forth from Halo to WordPress, which is pretty cool. So the way that this had always worked for me previously was WooCommerce takes the checkout, fires a webhook off. My webhook would trigger a script in Azure. That script would create the client. It would create the ticket. It would create the main user, the first invoice, so that we could reconcile that against the Stripe payment we received as part of the WooCommerce checkout. But it would automate the creation and onboarding into our Halo instance of that pro services engagement. So I wanted to kind of replicate that functionality, but I was in a go big or go home mood. And instead of making the easy choice of just reusing my script and doing it that way, I decided to make this also into a Halo runbook. So now instead of webhooking to PowerShell runbook in Azure, we're webhooking directly to Halo, and Halo is doing all that work. So we have what is an absurdly long runbook here that does things like check for a client duplicate, create the client, create the end user, send them their welcome email, create the first invoice. And that create invoice action is actually the interesting piece of this, because when it creates the invoice, it starts a loop where it iterates. And that WooCommerce plugin just sits there and waits on that checkout page until Halo posts back the alternative payments URL, right? So it ends up looking like
I feel like I'm getting scammed looking at this.
You want to talk about a scam? How about the scam of Baxter owing me a car still?
What?
That's a scam. He owes me a car. This is a well-documented fact.
I'm gonna need you to bring receipts, sir.
There's receipts on our YouTube for sure. I'm gonna say Baxter. Yes, Baxter's car dealership. So this is WooCommerce still. And here's our alternative payments.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what's kicked off the runbook in Halo. And it'll sit here while this runbook runs. And it will eventually spit it back out that payment link. It'll grab it and it'll redirect you. There's my ticket getting created for Baxter's car dealership. He got his welcome email. He's got his prepay balance. His invoice has been created.
Peter, he hasn't actually spent 9,000, just so we're clear. Like, this is all testing right now.
You mean I can't forward that invoice to Baxter for $9,000?
What's the cheapest car you can get in Colombia?
I was going to say, I might be able to let him out of the car if he gives me the $9,000. Might be an okay deal.
Does it have to be new? Were there stipulations?
There were stipulations, yes. Absolutely. Yes. We discussed this at length. So,
Right.
yeah. And there we go. And now we're going to bounce out to alternative payments. And here we are. Time to pay our invoice. And that's how you tie alternative payments into Halo and WordPress, because why not?
That is so cool. Now, because I'm curious, is this actually creating a real invoice in Halo for you to then sync into alternative payments? Or is this using the temporary invoice thing that the custom pay link that we offer?
The custom pay link APM endpoint doesn't work. So actually this creates the invoice in Halo, and then alternative payments picks that up. And then we pull alternative payments for the payment link for that invoice. So everything is clean end to end.
That is beautiful. So how long did it take you to build all of this? How many days?
It took about 3
Weeks.
hours.
3 hours?
Yeah. I thought it was going to be way harder, actually, but WordPress, it's just PHP, like so easy.
Okay. All right. So I'm gonna say, like, guys, if you have questions on anything you've just seen, like, now's the time. Q&A, hit the button and start popping questions into there. If you want them to be anonymous, that way, Chris seems like the kind of guy who would mock you for asking a silly question. So just do it anonymous. I understand. Chris, I don't think would do that. I'm just talking crap. But yeah,
No, I do that.
Sean says he has questions, so that's good. If you can't figure out the Q&A, you can also pop them in chat. But everything's open. We're here for you. Meanwhile, while you guys take a moment to uh, formulate your questions and submit them to us, I am going to say that now is a perfect time for us to segue into commercials. We're going to do a little Linus Tech Tips sponsored segue, right? So, as you saw, Alternative Payments has an API and it integrates with Halo, but Chris found an even more creative way to integrate it better with Halo. So if that's something you're interested in, we should talk. But more importantly, you guys send invoices, right? When you send your invoices, you also got to, like, collect the money and then you deposit checks or whatever. And then even if they pay you like on Stripe, you still got to like go create the deposit and then line up all the fees, and then hopefully it matches with the bank feed that gets downloaded into QuickBooks, right? Or if you used Alternative Payments, we automate that entire process. Chris, I'm sure, could tell you, but Alternative Payments is able to automate once you've created your invoice in Halo or whatever PSA you use. It will send the invoice to your customer. It'll send reminders if they haven't paid you quickly enough based on whatever schedule you want to use. It will create the deposit when they make their payment, and we deposit the money. It'll mark the invoice paid, and it'll also, if you chose to absorb the credit card fees, if they pay with a credit card, we'll also include those fees as line items in the deposits, so that way everything reconciles beautifully, and all you have to do is hit the match button when you download from the bank feed. Chris, does that line up with how you know our platform to work for you guys?
Yep.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
So our goal is to make it easy for you to get your money faster. Any business owner will tell you cash flow is one of the most important things for you to manage. That's why your customers want to take as long as they possibly can before they pay you. And that's why you want to get paid as quickly as possible. We're going to help you bridge that gap with your customers. So if you are at all interested in learning how we can help you get paid faster and make fewer mistakes on the whole accounts receivable process, since it's all automated, I'm going to launch a little poll here, and you just let us know if you're interested. And we would love to have a conversation. Conversation couldn't hurt, right? Chris, you said you're doing an AI thing here in a month. What do you got going on? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so we have our QuantumOps platform is going to be launching in the first week of December. So it's been something that I've been working on for about a year and a half. So there's probably a bunch of people in here that are beta testers for QuantumOps or in our last closed beta cohort. So it's an adjunct that bolts into HaloPSA, does a myriad of things. There's going to be an official announcement here probably in about a week or two. Can't say too much about it, but it's pretty cool. So,
all right. Well, that's very cool. And then you said you guys also do HaloPSA implementations. Is that something that you guys are still actively pursuing? Like if somebody said, "Hey, we're going to do HaloPSA, help us do it right."
Yeah, I mean, but I'm pretty selective about who I take nowadays for implementations. We definitely still do implementations. If you have a lot of custom integration and, really complicated operational stuff that needs integration or custom scripting, you're going to end up with me anyway. Halo's going to send you to me. But, if that's your game and you want to come direct to us, we're always happy to take on some more implementations. We do about anywhere between 50 and 75 of them a year. So it's boiled down to a science at this point.
That is so cool, man. So I still have that poll up. If you're interested in a conversation with Alternative Payments, we'd love to chat with you. There's like no obligation. If you learn more about it and you decide this just isn't for you, we're not going to keep bugging you, I promise. In a moment, once I close this poll, I'm going to open another poll. So that way, if you're interested in chatting with Chris about either Quantum Ops or HaloPSA consulting engagement, or maybe you just, I don't know, want to like talk to him because you like him and stuff, you can do that. So I'll have that poll up here in a second. Now, Sean asked a really good question. Do you have any like walkthrough about this process? I understand, well, starting to understand runbooks, what they can do. The logic makes sense, but I'm wondering how you really do the hook from WooCommerce back to Halo and wait.
Yeah, that's cool, right? So
Yeah.
I'm going to be writing this up for an MSP Automator article. So hopefully that'll get posted this weekend. I told Dexter I would. So I'll make all of this integration, the code, the walkthrough, and everything available on MSP Automator this weekend. But we can talk about it now too. So
Yeah.
runbooks are cool, right? Runbooks are actually the coolest thing I've ever seen in a SaaS application ever. So whoever at Halo, I always tell Tim and Morgan this too, like whoever invented runbooks at Halo, like does not make enough money. That is the coolest thing ever. So it's a flow chart, it's a sequence of events. It's basically a no code automation tool, and it's really powerful. I have my love-hate relationship with runbooks in a lot of ways because in the early days there was some issues, but they're gaining so much ground in runbooks now that they're starting to become a viable solution for a lot of things. Where they excel is things that are repeatable with minimal amount of logic or data transformation, right? So if you have to take a webhook from something, transform a whole bunch of data, like, do addition, subtraction, math, all this other stuff, runbooks probably aren't the best option. You're going to want to script something with that. But if you have this repeatable process that just has to take data in or send data out in a specific sequence of events, and you just need to do Boolean logic, you don't need to do any kind of like crazy math, runbooks are a great option because you can take data in from an external system, like what this runbook does. All right. So in WooCommerce, you can trigger a webhook based on an event. So in my case, it's the checkout completed event, right? So somebody put something in the cart, they filled out all their information, they hit the checkout button. That's going to fire a webhook to my runbook in Halo. Halo is going to evaluate that. It's going to do, deduplication to make sure that it's actually a unique request. Building in logic is important about, does this client exist? Does this user exist? Do they, because that's a thing that happens, right? We'll get one engagement, they'll run out of hours, they're going to buy another engagement on the website. We don't want to create another client for all that stuff, right? So we have to do some steps kind of like deduplicate that logic, but you create the client with a Halo API call. You create the invoice, right? You set their billing template. So after you create that invoice, the invoice is going to automatically go to Alternative Payments, right? Because Alternative Payments is listening for a webhook too from Halo. And invoice created fires, sends the invoice to Alternative Payments. Then in the runbook, we actually just wait. Can you put my screen back up one more time there?
Absolutely. There you go.
Thank you. So create an invoice, and then sometimes AP picks it up so fast that Halo gets the third-party like payment link populated in the time between the execute integration for create invoice and the response is received. So you may actually get the response containing the AP link, in which case there's no wait. So that's what we evaluate here. If that happens, great. We're going to send that data to a variable. And then we have like a custom integration method that actually posts this back to WooCommerce. So that's part of what the integration that I wrote for WordPress does, right? It exposes one single API endpoint with, like an API secret that you can configure. And you use a method in Halo to send that payment link back. So you send it back the order number that you got originally from WooCommerce, and you send it the payment link. Then that spinning waiting page, right? It's just pulling the WooCommerce database, waiting for that link to be populated. And once you post it back from Halo, it picks it up on the next poll, and then it drops the redirect out to that link. So it looks really complicated and cool and neat and stuff. It's actually pretty simple.
I love how he just tosses, it's actually pretty simple at the end of all that.
It's like, I mean, it's a lot of steps, but it's elegant in its simplicity, right? Like a lot of the automation you do is just a nightmare, right? Like billing bot, the tax 8 invoicing thing, sending to invoice. What a nightmare. Like if I could go back in time and not make a billing application, I would, but here we are. So in that scope, this is a pretty easy cakewalk.
No, you're absolutely right. I just like giving people a hard time, man. It's my superpower. All right, so it looks like you answered that question. Sean has a few run books. He needs to get better, and he needs a whiteboard. Interesting. And then Nathan just learned how to use runbook level variables. So that's cool.
Runbook level variables are cool.
Yeah. What would you say, like, all right, if you go super deep into your knowledge of runbooks, what is the craziest runbook you've ever built? I'm not saying show us how to do it all, but like, just what's the craziest one you built?
This one is up there. This is one of the more complicated ones I've built. I actually have a really cool AI alert evaluation run book that I'm not going to show you because it's got some of my secret sauce in it. But one thing that Halo's never really done well is parsing of emails. Like you can't regex on subjects and stuff like that. Like you can't know other PSAs, right? So they've always kind of struggled with that. My solution was let's run a run book every time we get one of these types of things, and let's extract the user and the client, and let's set that using a run book so that we can parse and route our alerts in basically any way we want. Let's use AI to like extract that, right? So that's probably one of the more complicated ones that I built. I've actually, like, if you want complicated run books, Robbie and Connor have a series called By the Run Book. And I've seen some of the run books those guys build are like, give me anxiety, like just hundreds and hundreds of steps. And the amount of planning and execution that goes into something like that is just incredible. So they're really the experts. I reluctantly use run books.
Eric. Nathan said he did that with Microsoft 365 delivery severity alerts on phishing and spam submissions.
Yep. Cool. It's really, really cool. That's a great application for a large language model, by the way. Like that's the kind of stuff we're going to see AI really excel at least in the next couple of years, right? Going from dumb regex-based systems to something like a language, natural language processing for stuff like that is super good.
Yeah. Now, since we're on the topic of AI, I know that for those of you who attended earlier this week, I did a training session all around AI and how you guys can do it for your customers correctly. So I'd love to get your insights. If you were to say, all right, you guys have to be doing AI for your clients, and here are some like table stakes things that you absolutely have to be doing. Can you give me just a few off the top of your head things that every MSP should be doing with AI?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're a Halo MSP, right? Like the improve agent note thing in actions in Halo, that's great, right? A lot of technicians are not great at writing notes or writing emails or communicating. It's a lifesaver. It's like lowest hanging fruit, one of the best things you can do. Parsing emails with AI. So another AI parsing application that I've done with a runbook is all of our clients use the portal to put in their onboarding tickets. I have one really large client that uses UltiPro and sends it to us via email. And I use like AI to extract all the fields and then populate the custom fields in Halo automatically. Great application for AI. There's a lot of really promising like report writing AI stuff. Again, Connor and Robbie make elegant insights. It's an AI tool to, it knows the SQL schema, and you tell it what you want, and it'll spit you out a perfect report that compiles and runs the first time. That kind of stuff is crazy good. I think that we're going to see, the evolution of AI in IT, even if we don't want to, right? Like Microsoft's forcing Copilot down our throats everywhere that they can. So we're going to see it. We're going to have to deal with it, like come to terms with it. But, the simple, easy to process stuff, repeatable tasks that need some kind of language analysis. There's a lot of those things that we do.
Absolutely. And let's see. Do you think some of the newer AI tools within Halo are making it better or easier where you may not need as many runbooks and automations or not?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't use any of that stuff for the most part.
Is it because you don't think it's like good enough? Like it doesn't work as well as using like OpenAI's API directly kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that this is one of those things where they put those features in the application and, they have good intentions behind them, but they don't really understand how the workflow works in an MSP. And I think that they unintentionally constrained you to do things a very specific way. And they're not super good. Especially with runbooks, you could just make a runbook to do anything you want. So, they're good basic intros, I guess. But I've never, in all of my implementations and all of my engagements, I've never actually seen anybody getting like huge value out of that baked in stuff. Besides the improve agent note stuff, but like the surveying user satisfaction with AI and the indexing and searching, it's just not well implemented, I don't think.
Awesome. I see one more comment here. A shameless plug from Seth Johnson from 10 minutes ago. Steve is correct about the QuickBooks integration. He's talking about alternative payments. This has also been our experience. Alternative payments has greatly improved on the QuickBooks integration and has saved us several hours per month tracking down and entering information. We have removed 2 other billing portal solutions because of the ease of use, both with customers and now especially so with the back-end deposit and reconciliation process. It's a very nice change. So that's pretty cool. Tim has a question. He says the alternative payments past due reminders seem to be all or nothing. Send a non-customizable email to everyone. Has anyone generated a Halo process to generate past due emails? Just so you know, Tim, I don't know timelines, but I'm pretty sure it's before the year is over. We are giving partners like you, the ability to start customizing a little bit more with the emails. And then I know we're also working on some other things around like who gets certain emails. So talk to, if you work with someone like Lindo or Priya in customer success, why don't you reach out to them, Tim? Because I think while it might not be available today, I think it's coming real soon, and they could probably even add you to like a beta list whenever something like that's ready. Just throwing that out there. Cool. I don't see any other questions. Is there anything else that you think people need to know, Chris?
No, I think, but I will take a swing at that last one. That I have seen people do that with a runbook in Halo, where they iterate on the invoices until they're paid, and if they go negative days past date paid, that they'll fire off like a custom email template. Doable. I think Halo is actually adding something in 2.2 that does that natively too. So that it's something you can do. There's an event trigger for invoice activity. So
my understanding, and I don't know how much they've said, But my understanding is Halo is working on a big like integration overhaul where they're going to make it easier for companies like ours or any other MSP vendor for that matter to be able to integrate a little more deeply into Halo. Have you heard anything about that, Chris? Okay. Uh, talk to someone over at Halo because um I don't. Do you have like one of their uh, early release sandboxes so you can play
Yeah.
with things before they're live? Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk to somebody over there at Halo, maybe like Alex or whoever you work with, and just see if you can get some more information about that because I would suspect you especially are going to need to, you know, understand exactly how that works, what it's going to do, all that good stuff. So that way you can keep doing your thing. Well, cool. Um, I thank you for doing this, Chris. And I think now is an excellent time for us to wrap up. If anybody has any questions or anything that you didn't think to ask before, reply to my email that I send tomorrow. And if it's something Halo PSA related, I can forward it over to Chris. I can even forward it over to somebody over at Halo if it's something way outside of his scope. Um, we'll figure out how to take care of you, I guess is what I'm saying. But thanks so much, everybody, and I will catch you all at the next webinar, which is on Tuesday. Take care, guys.